APA integrating sources. Dear students, while doing a research literature review, and particularly when you are, managing information, you are required to go through various sources, and then those sources are required to be integrated. So when you are integrating those sources while using APA style, you would be doing a lot of technical things, right? So in this session, we are going to talk about those, tips which are required for integrating sources. Um, you must be using a documentation style, and when you are using APA as your documentation style, you are required to use quotations appropriately, right? You are required to use signal phrases to integrate, sources in your research work, right? So those signal sources or those, signal phrases are basically the works which you would be referring to, right? So how would you integrate them is basically, the synthesizing of the sources. You would be synthesizing sources and you would be putting them in order to support your claims and your arguments, your statements. So that is actually the integration of sources. And while doing that, you would be using quotation marks, summaries, paraphrases, and facts, which will help you out develop your argument, right? So you would be putting them into one integrated form. And remember that your sources, they cannot speak for you. You may be using them, but you would be speaking on your behalf yourself, okay? So you would be integrating them. And this integration is basically when you are going through various sources and you are providing a commentary on them and you are using them for your own research purpose, right? So that is called the integration of sources. You must be using quotations appropriately when the language is especially vivid and expressive, right? And then when exact wording is needed for technical accuracy. So remember, the first point says that if the language is not vivid, it's not expressive, then you should not quote directly, right? And the second point says that you are using quotations when the exact wording is needed for technical accuracy, and you don't have any replacing words which may be presenting that accurately, right? So that's one compulsion on you to use those quotations directly, right? So that's one possibility. Then when it is really important to let the debaters of an issue explain their positions in their own words, right? So when it is important to present the ideas of others, those debaters who are actually presenting aspects of a particular subjects, then those quotations are used. They are used appropriately. And when the words of an authority lend weight to an argument, so when the authority which you are using in your research work, that would lend authority to your argument, your statement, or your own position, then you are using quotations directly, okay? And when the language of a source is the topic of your discussion, when you are actually commenting upon the language, then you are required to use quotations directly. This is the case when you are doing research in discourse analysis, particularly like critical discourse analysis. Then you are, commenting on the language, because language is your topic. That language is your subject. So in this case, you are also required to go and use quotations directly, right? So when you are integrating them, you must be, knowing the rule of APA, that there is a limit on using quotations per page, right? So you should know that, and you should follow those rules. Now I'm giving you the tips that how would you use signal phrases in APA papers, right? So using signal phrases in APA papers is basically to avoid monotony and try to vary both the language and the placement of your signal phrases, right? So you would be using signal phrases. Like, for example, In the words of Carmona 2004, and then the quotation marks are there. So you would be putting quotations directly within these quotation marks, right? And the next is Yanowski and Yanowski 2002 have noted, right? Similarly, Hopin and Tavares 2004, medical researchers pointed out that claimed Kwitzer 2003, wrote Duenwald 2004, researchers McDuffie et al. 2003 have offered a compelling argument for this view. Hills 2002 answered objections with the following analysis. Okay, so you are actually using those signal phrases and their models, and this is done while you are using APA style. And then there are signal phrases in the form of verbs which may be used in your studies, like admitted, contended, reasoned, agreed, declared, refuted. And you are using these signal phrases while integrating the sources as per APA style in your APA papers, right? So these are some of the tips which you would be using in your research paper.